I'm joined by one of the usual suspects. Sir, go ahead, introduce yourself.
And this is Kanoshi Abominito wondering why in the hell Dragon Age Inquisition looks better than Dragon Age Vanguard. How in the world does a game 10 year that came out 10 years ago look better than the game that came out today? That's coming out now.
And let me put it in perspective. Inquisition wasn't a great looking game either.
Yeah,
the
I
art
still think it
style,
looks better though.
the art style wasn't great in that game either. It's just the art style of Veilguard isn't great. It is they overly simplified the art style to make it easier for them to produce assets, and they hyper stylized it. So this game probably visually won't age as poorly as previous Dragon Age games, like Dragon Age Origins and Awakening and Two and Inquisition, aged very poorly. They looked fine for the time, but like 2, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, by the next generation, they didn't look great. This game's probably going to age really well because it has a stylized graphical style, but I mean, let me put it this way: as an old school RPG fan, I could give a fuck less about graphics when it comes to RPGs. I mean, because I played tabletop games where you didn't have any graphics. You know what your
Yeah, I
graphic
did.
was for the monster? Your graphic was, hey, what's in this manual?
I mean, I do too. But these companies pride themselves in their AAA game, graphics and quality, and I'm just kind of
I mean,
wondering what happened here.
I don't think this game, even though they're saying it was AAA, I think maybe in terms of development time, it was AAA, but in terms of the resources, like the art assets and shit like that, I don't think it was triple because they already said that the game looks great no matter what settings you have on PC, which tells me that this game was optimized to like everything about this game was made to make it as accessible to the widest audience possible.
Yeah,
Them
yeah,
forgetting that
obviously.
Dragon Age has always been a niche franchise. Mass Effect was the multi hit a lot of hit multiple groups of consumers. Mass
Yeah.
Effect was the multi-consumer. Dragon Age was always very niche. It started out as very niche, and then they like this is EA. You know, we have to make this be good for everybody. It's like not everyone's gonna like everything, dude, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, shit. Anyway, so I guess we'll do the first topic, which is Nintendo's hardware problem. So as we all know, Nintendo is going to come out with. They're probably going to announce their new hardware either this year or next year. And the thing that makes me think about things is, you know,
What was that? So,
well, what I was saying is that Nintendo has a hardware problem.
yeah.
They've always they've had a hardware problem for quite some time. Allow me to elaborate, okay? Um, you know, once there was a time when Nintendo would go toe to toe with everybody else with their hardware, right? The NES was aged compared to its successors. The hardware wasn't great, but compared to its competitors, because it's competition. When the NES came out, the NES was released in '83 in Japan, the Famicom, and then it was brought over to America in 85, 86, 85, yeah, around 85. So its competition was the Atari,
Ah,
and the NES kicked the Atari's ass. Like you
yeah.
cannot look at old school Atari games. Even the 7800, which was like their most the 7800 came out in 87, 88, and that was like the third generation Atari console. And even the games that were re-released and upgraded to perform well on that particular console, compared to what the NES was doing. It's like, what? You want me to spend how much for this shit?
Yeah, wasn't the NES using older technology?
It was, but how that technology expressed itself, you know, was head and shoulders above what the other system was doing. Now, with that being said, with that being said, um, after when Sega released the Sega Genesis, and they basically curb stomped the shit out of the NES in America. Like they took 70% of Nintendo's market share when they released the Genesis in '89. Nintendo said, "We got something for you," and they came out with the Super Nintendo. And aside from it not having an overclocked processor, which is how the Sega Genesis had games that had a higher frame rate than the SNES. The SNES on every other metric was a more powerful console.
Yeah.
Okay? That's how you were able to have games. Like, out the gate, you were having games like Link to the Past, Super Mario World, F-Zero, Hyperzone, Pilot Wings. Like shit that you look at your Sega Genesis and you're like, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Now, they're great games on both systems. All right. No knock against that. But the more technically proficient games were on the Super Nintendo by and large. Okay. Then, you know, the PlayStation comes out. And Nintendo kept on fighting for a little bit. There were games, like, here's something you might not know. Donkey Kong Country, the second highest selling 2D platformer on the Super Nintendo, outsold Crash Bandicoot.
Oh, that's pretty crazy.
Yes. Outsold it. Like Donkey Kong Country sold, I want to say almost 9 million units on the Super Nintendo.
That's pretty good for that era. That's for sure.
Yes. Cartridges. Okay. That's why when I hear Sony fans, oh man, we love Crash Bandicoot. Y'all didn't buy it.
Yeah.
Y'all always talking about how good your exclusives are, and then y'all didn't buy the shit. Man, fuck you. With that, oh, our shit's better than everyone else's. Okay, sure. Whatever you say, bruh. Anyway.
Yeah, that's the problem with Sony fans. They're like, oh man, our games are top tier, but every time they come out,
Y'all don't buy
it's a drop in the bucket. It's
them.
like look at the top games that are sold on PlayStation. It's all third party shit.
Yep.
All the time.
But anyway, so as I was saying, yeah, so the N64 comes out, and aside from them still using cartridges, the N64 is a more powerful console than the PlayStation. And the only console on the market that was more powerful than the N64 was the Saturn, which,
Yeah.
In Japan, the Saturn was kicking everyone's ass. Even the PlayStations in Japan for a time.
Yeah.
And then they come up with, yes, the N64 didn't have the sales of the PlayStation, but if you had a multiplat that was on the PlayStation or the N64 version, if not was comparable, in some ways it was better than the PlayStation version of that game. The GameCube, very powerful little console, more powerful than the PlayStation. And a lot of the multiplats that hit the N64 and the PlayStation 2, the definitive version of those games is the GameCube version, not the PlayStation 2 version. RE4. I would argue and say the best version of that game is on the GameCube. Tales of
Yeah.
Symphonia. Best version of that game is on the GameCube.
Yeah. Man, the thing is, it's the GameCube. Yeah, it was a small box, but it's very powerful compared to
Yeah,
compared to the PS2. Before the Xbox came out.
yeah. And then
And
the Xbox came
even
out.
that's debatable.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, even though the OG Xbox, the original Xbox, everyone's like, oh, that was the most powerful console ever. There's some games that were multiplats to all three of those consoles that, like, the best version of those games was on the GameCube.
Like Prince of Persia, the GameCube version had less glitches
Yeah,
than the other ones.
ran smoother.
Uh, yeah, it's pretty wild to think about compared to Nintendo today.
Yeah. Then the Wii
That
came
they
out.
actually had games that ran better, ran smoother on their consoles
Yeah.
than
Then,
the other
then,
ones.
then the Wii came out, and Nintendo started to go the route of we don't care if everything else runs like shit on this. Our games are going to run well, which was fine until the Switch came out because even first party games aren't running well on the Switch.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how that how not the new, but how Xenoblade Chronicles X runs.
Yeah, I saw a thing where they showed a screenshot of the same scene on the Wii U and the Switch version, and I'm not gonna lie, the Wii U version looks better to me. Uh, the same scene,
It's like
the Wii U
people
version looks
were,
better.
yeah, I was looking at people like all excited. It's like, oh, it looks so much better. It's like the character models obviously look
Sharper,
cleaner, but
they look sharper.
sharper,
Yeah,
but the environments look pretty much the same. Like
yeah,
they
or in
didn't
some
nothing
cases
was
more barren. They said they're adding new story content, so that's good. Maybe they'll raise the fucking level cap from 60 to like 100.
like how that's the thing. It's like I never ended up finishing that game. Like did they like how so was it like the only way to fight bigger monsters and stuff was using the mechs and getting better equipment? Is
Yeah,
that essentially what?
yeah. The grind
Oh,
wasn't leveling up at that point once you hit level 60. The grind was having better equipment,
um,
which
I
meant that
see.
you had to learn how to synthesize better equipment because at a certain point in the game, like you couldn't just go to a store and upgrade your stores and just buy better equipment. You had to learn how to make better equipment by getting um, resources, by using the resource nodes in the game in order to get better equipment.
Yeah,
There
I
was a
mean,
meta game to it. The game, even though Xenoblade Chronicles X is a single player RPG, the game had some
I
serious
don't know.
MMO metagame shit going on.
Yeah.
So I ground through the end of that game hating it because I was like, why the fuck should I have to learn all this meta shit just to enjoy a single player RPG? I don't like metagaming in single player games. It's the
Yeah.
reason why I don't like Symphony of the Night because there's an entire fucking metagame behind that game that I'm just like, why the fuck should I have to learn all this extra shit just to play a 2D Legend Metroid Castlevania game? Why?
That's how a lot of the Souls games are.
Yeah,
Like it's not enough just to level up. You also got to make sure
right
you
equipment,
get your equipment.
understand how
All that stuff.
invincibility frames work, how your dodge works, how much stamina each move uses. It's like, look, I don't have time for all that shit.
It becomes borderline spreadsheet game after that.
Yeah,
After a while.
yeah, yeah. And this is coming from someone who used to play Pokemon and Dragon Quest Monsters, and I would fucking keep like the perfect. I would keep breeding sheets to figure out how to breed the perfect monsters in both those games. So I understand metagaming. I just don't like doing it these days because I have a life and a job and shit that I have to do with my time. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the hustle, but I just don't have time for that shit. Like you, I have other stuff I want to do or have to do.
and even if I did have the time, I'd rather be spending it just playing the damn game
Yeah,
rather than getting
yeah,
out.
exactly.
Well, back in the day, it would be pen and paper. Now you can do it on a table on your computer, or use a FAQ where someone did all the work for you before you had to get into it. Um, but look, I'm glad this game's getting ported over to the Switch. It deserved to have a bigger footprint, and now it has a wider audience to enjoy that game. Go play it.
Yeah.
People who never played it, go play that game. Get the game, play it, and then see how much you got fucked with Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and 3. How all the features and ways of fighting that you had in X got stripped out and nerfed for 2 and 3. Hey, remember when you could aim for certain enemies' body parts so that they couldn't use attacks using those body parts anymore? Hey, this fucker hit me with his tail. Fuck that tail. How you like that, bitch? It's like, oh, this dragon monster bit me. I'm gonna break its mouth. Hey, now you can't bite me anymore, bitch. And then Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and 3 come out, where all that's stripped down. Hey, remember how in X you had the outfit that you could wear your hello Kirby. And Xenoblade Chronicles X, you had the outfit that you could wear that was like your cosmetic outfit, but then you had your combat outfit that changed your stats, and you could actually choose which one presented in all the time. So you could have your character in a tuxedo, but then on the outside they were wearing like some other shit. Their combat, the stuff that influenced their stats was something different. And that got stripped out in the 2 subsequent games, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and 3. Even though those features were in Xenoblade Chronicles 1 to a lesser extent. So the 2 later games were a step back in terms of features. Also, Rex was just a really annoying character in Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
No, Rex was exactly how protagonist should be. Loud, happy, but also
annoying,
fierce. Okay, I'm fucking with you.
Yeah, I know. Rex was annoying. Like, here's the thing, okay? Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
They leaned on too many tropes in that game too. Like, it's not even it's not that they leaned on tropes. It's just the way they implemented them was kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, and it wasn't like they leaned on tropes and they didn't do anything new or interesting with the tropes.
Exactly.
Like, they're subverting expectations in a good way. Like, I'll give an example of subverting expectations in a good way, okay? Let's say you're playing Chrono Trigger, right? Chrono Trigger subverts your expectations because the first time you meet Lavos in Chrono Trigger, your party loses and Chronos dies. He fucking dies. This character who you've been told, you start out playing as Chrono by himself. He is your main character, okay? He dies in the first time you meet the main boss of the game. He's murdered.
Yeah.
Okay? And let me let you in a little secret. You don't have to get Chrono back in Chrono Trigger. You can beat the rest of the game without ever getting Chrono back.
And speaking of that, I'll just say this: Metaphor doesn't make the same dumb mistake when it comes to writing and storytelling.
Oh yeah,
that Xenoblade Chronicles 2 makes.
Yeah, but you have to remember.
I'll just leave it at that.
But you have to remember that Atlas, they've been making like the Persona games and the Shin Megami Tensei games have always had, like, I think the Shin Megami Tensei games get a little bit too emo, like emo before emo was a thing. But the Persona games have always had good writing. Like, well, not the first two, but like even the first two had good writing. Persona 3, Persona 4, especially Persona 4. If you've ever played Persona 4, the writing in that game really gets like teen angst and issues of identity and stuff like that. I'm like, wow, like for adults to have written about this, they really reached deep into like real human issues. You know,
Yeah.
like having Kanji Tatsumi who is questioning his sexuality. Um,
That I wonder if people called it woke.
well, I mean, no one called it that then. It was just like, oh, this is a character who is
Man.
questioning his sexuality, and he's not sure what he is or who he likes, and it just boils down to he just desperately wants someone to like him, male or female. He just because he's actually a sensitive. Basically a sensitive mama's boy. He used to be a good kid, but he got tired. Like he basically became like, since people were going to treat him badly because he was an only child and his father died and he was living with his mother, he basically leaned into the stereotype and became a semi hooligan delinquent so that he could basically, take on, he leaned into the stereotype in order to get people to, in order to drive people who would mess with him away. But in actuality, he's just, someone who just wants friends. That's a really interesting story beat for a character. I'm like, wow, that's real deep. What teenager hasn't felt like an outsider and was desperate to just have some type of social group they could have friends in? That's a universal truth.
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. But and then you get Xenoblade Chronicles 2 with Rex, who's just okay. And Pyrrha and Mithra. By the way, I know everyone's like, I love Mithra. She's amazing. I was not impressed. Anyway, enough about that. Before we go any further, I guess since you're here, Kirby, do you have any things you'd like to add about Xenoblade Chronicles X being ported over to the Switch?
I I thought it would never get ported.
I mean,
because it just took so long.
I mean, but at this point, the system that it was on was the Wii U that had a very small install base, like 10 million. It was a commercial failure for Nintendo. Well, it was a critical failure for Nintendo and almost a commercial failure for Nintendo. So, it makes sense that now that they're about to switch over to their next hardware, they're probably going to announce it, if not like the end of this year into next year. Well, probably early next year. They'll probably announce it.
I'm tired of the leaks. I'm tired of the talks about the leaks. Just show the damn console.
I don't. Like I said, I'm just at the point where it's like they're gonna show it when they're gonna show it.
Yeah,
but I don't pay attention to the leaks. I don't pay attention.
I don't particularly care about the leaks either. I'm just saying that, commercially speaking, from a business standpoint, it doesn't make sense for them to talk about it now before the holiday season because they want people to buy games for the system they have out now.
The difference between, because everybody's because it was the anniversary, it was around the time the anniversary of the Switch was announced. Again, the Wii U wasn't selling, so it was just like
they pushed the Switch out the door. Yeah, they were like, get out there.
No loss announcing in October, but you have at least one more big game coming out, which is Mario and Luigi,
and allegedly Metroid Prime 4. Next year.
Metroid Prime 4 coming out. So it's
a few months ago, I made some ice that was perfectly clear.
It's a different era now, so they can wait until whatever to announce it because Switches are still.
Yeah.
No, they're not.
They're not selling. The sales of hardware are flat in terms of new hardware, but software is still selling.
Software.
Yeah.
Software.
Yeah. So why would they? Look, only an idiot would fuck up their. Only a moron like Sony would send out. Only an idiot would send out their new hardware like that. Only an absolute idiot would do some shit like that. And Nintendo is many things: greedy, selfish, dickish.
Oh, you can say goodbye to all those. Speaking of greedy, talk about this later, but you can say goodbye to all those playlist channels on for Nintendo music. I'll just leave it at that until later.
Yeah, but stupid. Nintendo is not a stupid company. They're not gonna fuck up their revenue stream. Why do you think they kept on suing all those people uh, who saying, "Hey, I got this game playing on an emulator"? Because they're still selling Switch software, and they don't want people. They want people to buy the games on the hardware. Now, once they announce their new console, and that shit comes out, and they stop supporting the Switch, then you can talk about emulating the Switch. Although, seeing how big the install base is for the Switch, I wouldn't be surprised if their next hardware is also backwards compatible with the Switch. Because why would they want to leave? Like, that's a huge already... That's a huge already pre-made audience. So, why would you, why would you not want to keep that audience open? You know what I mean? Anyway, anything else you want to say about Xenoblade Chronicles X before we move on to the next console, Kirby? I mean, the next topic?
Nothing. I haven't really played Xenoblade Chronicles X. I heard it has the best gameplay of all Xenoblade games, but
yeah.
Why? But have we talked about Nintendo Music yet?
We're gonna get to that.
Okay.
We're gonna get to that later. Okay, the next one is why you should hold. The next topic is why you should hold on to your old systems and games. So, the FCC, or was it one of those big governing bodies in the U.S., basically said that if you are a digital library or a library that has access to digital content, you should not be able to make games that are no longer being commercially supported or sold available to the public. Hear this out, man. Hear me out. Let me explain this to you. Shit that is no longer being commercially supported or sold digitally. That a library, which one of the purposes of a library is to preserve information that is no longer widely available, they should not be able to use emulation in order to preserve that information.
Wait, what?
Yes. They can't have a digital version of those games. Like solely a digital version of that game. So let's say, hypothetically speaking, let's see, what's a Devil World? Devil World is an NES game made. It was like the second NES game made by Shigeru Miyamoto, and it's kind of like a Pac-Man clone, but it was never released here in America. Okay, so if the only way you could play it is digitally, unless you were to go to Japan, get a Famicom version of it, and then port it, like, rip it or whatever. If you don't have a physical version of that game, just the digital version, like a ROM, and you are in a library, like let's say you have a library that has a video media section where you have like laser discs, DVDs, Blu-rays, VHSs, reels, okay? You say, hey, we also have a video game section, and these are some games that are no longer commercially available. They're not being sold, okay? But we're emulating them. A governing body in the U.S. said that you can no longer do that because that is a form of that you're impugning on the rights of the companies. Basically.
What the hell?
Yeah, but here's the thing: they're not selling it commercially anymore.
Yeah, it's like why do these companies have such a tight grip around these intellectual properties that they're not even selling anymore?
And
they're not doing shit with.
Yeah, the thing that makes it even worse is that this isn't like somebody emulating some shit off the internet and playing it at their house, or torrenting it to a group of other people. This is a library. One of the purposes of a library is to preserve information that is not widely available. It's the reason why some libraries you can go to some certain libraries that have their own printing shops. You can say, hey, I need this information, and they can print it out for you because it's not widely available anymore. It's like
not so much for fan patches, because there's a lot of games like the game you just brought up, and tons of other games that have yet to be translated.
That is
the games that people want to play that have yet to be translated.
I mean, even if you don't want to play it, just like, okay, I think, and this is just the intellectual in me, the knowledge is sacred type person that I am. Knowledge should be preserved. Even shit from vile people that you don't want to read, like from people that you may vehemently disagree with. For example, I've read Mein Kampf. It's a dry, boring book, but I've read it.
Yeah, I've heard.
Okay, I've read it. Okay, and I can tell you right now, I don't think that book should be burned.
Yeah.
I don't think any form of information should be destroyed. Even if I don't agree with the philosophies behind it, I don't think it should be destroyed. Or locked behind a paywall. But, that's the shit we're dealing with. You have any thoughts on this, Kirby?
Nope, doesn't seem like it. He's muted.
All right. Okay, next topic. We touched on this earlier. We came back.
Oh, hey! I thought I didn't know I was on mute.
Oh, okay. So, what do you think about the whole idea that basically, due to bureaucracy, libraries that have access to digital content are being disallowed from making that content available to people if they have to emulate it?
So you mean like emulators?
Well, I mean, if the game is no longer being commercially sold, so for example, let's say there's a game. I'm going to use a game that, okay, let's say a digital library, due to someone being on staff who knows something about coding, gets Spore up and running. The servers for Spore were pulled a long time ago. Okay, the original game, as it was originally came out, you can't play it anymore. Now, there is a GOG version that's had like the DRM stripped out, but that means certain features no longer work. You get what I'm saying?
That's dumb.
So
that's dumb. Like,
can I finish?
Imagine.
Can I finish before you
yes.
make a statement? Before you give your opinion? So, therefore, if someone does that, basically due to bureaucracy, they're saying that companies are allowed to basically put a hard lock on those games that they're no longer selling those games commercially. You can't buy them. Okay, they're not being sold. The systems that they're on are no longer viable to have physically. Okay, so if a library, okay, that has a digital section where you get access to digital content, is selling, hey, you can play these. Let's say this is the library of gaming. Okay, we have these old games. We're emulating them because it doesn't make sense for us to have like 50 different consoles out here hooked up to TVs. It's unrealistic and a resource sink. They're like, no, don't emulate that.
Oh, okay.
You're impugning on the company's rights, basically, is what they're saying.
How do I say this? I have to say I am an original hardware type of person. I prefer to play games on the original hardware, but at the same time, like, emulation is not a problem because they aren't selling it anymore. And if they do have a way to sell it, then yeah, don't get the emulator. Like, for example, Devil's World, like, they have the game on Nintendo Switch Online, but like
yeah, but Nintendo Switch Online itself is emulating that game.
Yeah, that is true. But I mean, like, when companies do it, it's okay. When consumers do it, it's a problem.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna play devil's advocate because discussion.
Okay.
What if there's a game that you want, like you own, let's say you work at a institution, a public institution, let's say a library, a modern library that has that has a uh, that has a digital media section, okay? Where in the digital media section, you can watch Blu-rays, DVDs, VHSs, and they have access to computer games. Now, here's the thing: computer games that are using old hardware that's nowhere really that's not that has to be emulated because it's like those games don't the hardware that ran that software no longer is really used like old Commodore games, 8-bit system games. Those systems aren't 8-bit, 16-bit system games. Those games aren't you have to emulate them. There's no other way to play those games. You have to use emulation. Okay?
Okay.
And then they say, hey, I mean 8-bit and 16-bit computer games, not console games.
Right.
And then you have a section that's video games. Now, you have a limited amount of space in this area. So, do you have, uh, 50 TVs, each one hooked up to a different console?
No.
Or do you just use?
But I can't put the consoles and organize them into place.
Yeah, but that's still unrealistic because each console has to have its thing. Or you're switching out the consoles per day of the week. Maybe like a week you have Nintendo consoles hooked up, like select Nintendo consoles.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But anyways, I will tell you, I do agree that like emulation should be available, but I just prefer physical. I prefer physical games, and also another thing I have to say. Have you ever heard of this guy called The Electric Underground? He said that like physical games will eventually like stop working.
Well, yeah,
and that digital games are like essentially all video games come from digital entertainment.
Because the battery, one of the reasons, because the CMOS battery, and obviously the degradation of the metals over time.
Yeah. Well, and also just the sheer fact that, I mean, like, even if the game itself doesn't break, the consoles eventually will.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, everything's trapped within entropy. I don't know what to tell you.
But
so next topic?
Yeah. So next topic is Dragon Age. Dragon Age is coming out, if it's not out already, Veilguard. And some people are not happy with that art style. They say that this does not look like Dragon Age. It's been basically kind of like, when Diablo 3 came out and people were mad that the art style made it look like Diablo 1 and 2 was very dark, gothic, serious game, and then Diablo 3 brightened all the art styles up to make it look more approachable, I guess.
Yeah, it looked more like WoW, like it looked like a darker version of WoW. I think what people were not particularly the happiest with.
All right.
And then Diablo 4 went back to gothic, sort of dark, grimy look, and but then people still weren't happy because the gameplay wasn't what they wanted. So, it's just the nature of gaming these days. These companies just not making people happy.
All right. Okay. I mean, I think that I think Bioware made the conscientious choice to try and, in their mind, to make this game appeal to as wide an audience as possible. not realizing that Dragon Age has never been a mass appeal game series.
Yeah.
It's never been like Mario's a mass appeal game. Legend of Zelda has mass appeal. Metroid is a niche franchise. It's always been a niche franchise. It's never not been a niche franchise. So if you strip features out of a Metroid game in order to make it appeal to a bigger audience, you're stripping out so much of the soul of a Metroid game that it doesn't feel like a Metroid game anymore. And I'm thinking that's the same thing that's going on with Dragon Age, you know? But they've been doing this for years. Like each new iteration of Dragon Age stripped features out of that franchise. Dragon Age 2 had less features than Dragon Age Origins. Dragon Age Inquisition had more features than Dragon Age 2, but still less features than Dragon Age Origins. And this game has less features than Dragon Age Origins. So they just keep on stripping features out of this franchise, hoping that it will, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what do you think? Agree, disagree, don't care?
What was that?
I said, what do you think? Do you agree, disagree? Do you agree with what I said, disagree with what I said, or you don't care?
I've never been super huge into the Dragon Age stuff, but I know that this is a relatively beloved franchise, and people just are absolutely disappointed in what this game turned out. I heard IGN gave it a 9 out of 10, and we've been saying for years not to trust a lot of these big review sites. They're practically shells at this point. So,
all right.
I mean, that's all I have to say about that.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so here's what I have to say. So I haven't played a Dragon Age game, but I can relate with Metroid because Metroid Federation Force, the camera models looked insulting. Like, I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, I mean, if they were gonna do a Metroid on a handheld console, it should have been 2D.
Yeah, like
instead of them
Metroid
trying to do a
Samus
Metroid
System.
Prime game, because the Prime game started on console and they should stay on console.
Yeah. Well, anyways, what I have to say is, yeah, I think if they want to make Metroid have mass appeal, I think they should just advertise it better. And also, another thing, I beat Super Metroid, Metroid Zero Mission so far as Metroid games I've beaten.
Really? Well, I mean, I like Zero Mission, Fusion, and Super Metroid. I like the art style of those games. I was not crazy about Metroid Dread. I was like, I don't like this art style. I don't like 2.5D art styles in Metroid because I grew up with the cell shaded graphics, like the 8 16-bit graphics.
Oh,
So going
I
to
don't mind.
yeah, going to 2.5D, I didn't like that.
Do you like Metroid Other M?
What other M? Ah, I hate that game. I hate that game so much. Oh, I hate that game. That game.
Next topic.
No. The next topic is pretty simple. It's
Unpopular opinions.
unpopular opinion and free topic. So I guess we'll do free topic first because Kenoshi had something he wanted to bring up. Kenoshi, free topic.
I just want to talk about, if you enjoyed listening to a lot of your favorite Nintendo music and listening to that on YouTube with the free playlist, those are probably going to go bye-bye soon because Nintendo just released their app only for online members of the Nintendo Switch. Their music catalog. So yeah, I just saw a trailer today. They just announced it today. It's actually available today. Nintendo Music. It's a app for listening to OSTs from various Nintendo games, um, past, present. So that's pretty cool. But all these channels that have Nintendo Music playlists are probably gonna get taken down. So
I mean, yeah, and we knew they were this. We knew this shit was gonna happen
the
because
collapse is imminent. So I don't know. It's like, if you got a channel you really like when it comes to Nintendo Music, download some software, rip that shit, put it somewhere safe, because it's gonna go. It's all gonna go at some point. So get ready.
all right. I think you had a topic similar to that or an addendum to that topic, Kirby. So go ahead.
Well, anyways, this is just a response to Nintendo Music. I thought it was going to be a topic, but I have another topic.
All right.
But first, I'm going to give my response, and that's I I wonder if they're going to go after the websites on Google as well, because like that's where I get most of my music.
Yeah, but I think Google pays a premium to those companies whose music it is.
Okay, well that's good. But anyways, here's my topic. So I think it's better to react, to get mad and react to someone who's being mean versus starting stuff with people or trying to upset people. And I just feel like the internet culture is just too much on the other side.
And people creating drama just for the sake of it.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, you
Yeah,
notice
we
all
all
those
know that.
people who had channels like that, their channels died, or they lost their damn mind and exploded. Like, you heard the shit that happened with Review Tech?
Oh yeah, I've been following
Tell
that.
me more
That's
about it.
been hilarious.
Tell me more
That's been
about it.
some of the most entertaining. I don't get me
I mean, I
wrong.
just
I
heard the
know it's
basic stuff. I don't know what's been. I just heard that, like, oh, he deleted his channel, said, fuck it, I'm done. He just disappeared.
the it is absolutely Jerry Springer type schlock, and I'm here for it. It is
I
very
feel
entertaining
bad
to
for
see
him.
this man destroy his life in live and living color, because it's just like everything bad that's happened to him, he has willingly invited it in.
I mean, him and Boogie 998, like
Yep,
both
it
of
is.
those dudes just, it's like, oh, I had a successful YouTube career. Now, to be fair, that doesn't mean shit because YouTube changes its algorithm every 3 to 6 months, which means that certain people. Thank you, Retro Hunters Rob. I adjusted my audio on my sound software. I'm using OBS, so hopefully I moved it up. So hopefully it's not as it's on 9.3, 9.4 decibels. Hopefully it's not too low. But anyway, as I was saying, yeah, it's been so. What happened with Rich at Review Tech?
Oh, he fired his video editor.
Oh,
And
I heard.
he fired his video. This all started when he fired his video editor.
Okay.
He goes by the name of Jay. He fired him, and he fired him on his birthday. Did not pay him out,
Oh, okay.
and that led to him essentially spiraling and blaming his editor for his downfall, taking no responsibility for his actions, and it just the past few months he's just been spiraling out of control. Uh, Doing live streams, getting high every night.
Well, he's
Um,
smoking weed on video.
is smoking weed, taking edibles like a freaking eating edibles like a freaking horse eats hay, just
Whoa.
nonstop every other night, drinking those seltzers too. Like this man is a nonstop he crashing out is it doesn't do what this man has been doing the past few months. With
He's probably doing some other shit too. That's because I know people who do edibles, and what they do is that they take the edible and they just pass out, or they get a little giggly and they go to sleep. From what it sounded like to me, it sounded like he's pre-gaming before the stream, and the stream is just continuing what he's already doing, and then hits him and he just passes out.
I mean, you've seen Rich. That guy's so fat that his body can't.
Oh, he got even bigger.
Yeah, so he's just so he can't. He's got to eat. No, he actually had the lap band surgery, which when people have that lap band surgery.
Yeah, but the lap band surgery, if you eat too much, it can reverse itself.
Yeah, that's essentially what happened. So he has to eat a lot of edibles, and he has to drink a lot of these seltzers in order for it to have truly any effect, because he's so freaking fat. Anyway, so he destroyed his entire career, completely destroyed. Went after his editor, and his editor, who he was friends with for at least during that time, they were working together.
They had a working relationship.
Yeah, they had a working relationship.
Yeah.
And he just started crying, crying on stream every other night. He essentially all this crying led it to him losing his damn mind and shutting down his channel because he was afraid that it was going to go below 1 million subs. So he freaked out. Shut down his channel. Now he has no channel.
You mean he deleted the channel? He didn't shut it down. He deleted it.
He deleted it, yeah. And now he's just stuck streaming and bitching every other night about how the world's against him and how everybody's wrong, and he's delusional, thinking that he's actually winning, that he's actually defeating his trolls. Like, it is absolutely astounding.
See, here's the thing, right? Like, there's I used to follow a streamer called Noah Antweiler, aka the Spoony Bard, the Spoony one. Okay, and even now I still go back and watch because the guy's a really good storyteller. Like he'll sit down, he'll talk about shit. Because I think he's a few years older than me, but we're still around the same age where we can talk, or he can talk about shit. I'm like, I remember that. And so he was, but like something happened. He just imploded. But here's the thing. When you implode on YouTube, you disappear for a while. And then you just occasionally do live streams. And then you slowly work yourself back in. You don't keep on putting yourself out there so people can see you imploding slowly but surely into nothing.
Well, he's a 40-something-year-old man who still lives on his parents. Still lives with his parents and on his parents.
Really? Didn't he get married and have a kid?
Oh, he burnt all that shit to the ground. He fucked all that up. He fucked all of that up.
Oh, okay. Because here's the thing, man. Look, listen. I kind of when the group I used to be a part of, when that group imploded, I stopped watching all that shit, all those people. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take a step back and just do my own thing. And I'm much happier since I just do my own goddamn thing. But so I mean, like I remember seeing like Bear Hugger like years ago in a thing where he was like still hanging out with people. Like this loser's still on YouTube.
What's wrong with Bear Hugger? He seemed like a nice guy.
You don't know?
No, I don't.
I'll tell you after the cast.
I only saw him I saw him in 2017.
I'll tell you after the cast ends.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so everybody and their mother has come out to essentially annihilate Rich, ex-girlfriends and working relationships. It's an absolute mess. And you know what? You don't feel bad for him at all because he brought it upon himself.
Yeah, but I mean, remember the good old days where he had that intro?
Yeah.
Can I say something?
What?
Can I say something?
No, go ahead.
Sure.
So I was a fan of Rich of Review USA since 2012, and I loved his Sega Genesis versus Nintendo Super Nintendo story, and that's what got me into his videos. But like, I never really paid attention to like what happened. But one thing I do know is like there's one time where like his mother or someone was telling him like, "Hey, your kid's acting up. Please take care of that." And Rich is like, "I'm doing the video."
Oh yeah, I remember.
And I'm just thinking like, you know, why don't you just say, "Hey, I'll be right back, guys." That's what anyone else would do.
Yeah, that was one of the big things to come out of this. Like he doesn't really take care of his kids very well. Like he was his mother came in and basically told him. Well, she didn't say it like this, but she should have told him that. Why don't you get your fat ass up off the stream and take care of your kid? So his kid was crying for him, and he was just too busy streaming. He couldn't cut the stream. He couldn't pause the stream for like 5, 10, 15 minutes to deal with that. He was like, "No, I can't. I got to stream. I got to stream." And yeah, he's the villain of his own story.
I feel bad for some people, even though they do horrible things, like Chris Chan and.
Well, Chris Chan can go to hell. I'm sorry, Chris Chan's done some really horrible things.
I know.
Here's what I'll say about Rich. It sounds like to me that Rich is self-medicating. It sounds like he's self-medicating and he's going through depression, and he needs to go see somebody, a therapist, to get himself right. Because typically, like, you know, he's you know.
And also, one last thing I'll say about this is, you know, here's a lesson for you kids. If you want to take pot to kill your anxiety, it might do it for a little bit, but once you get off of it, it comes back full force. Talking to people who used to smoke pot.
If I remember correctly, weed makes you, like, here's the thing. Weed makes you paranoid. So you're taking something for your paranoia and anxiety that's going to make you paranoid and more anxious.
Exactly.
Different people have different reactions to weed. Anyways, I don't want to say that. Oh.
No, weed is a depressant. So as is alcohol. So when people treat their depression by drinking, you're just making yourself more depressed.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I'm just saying. Chemically, it basically, like, because people do that. They're like, I feel bad. Let's go to the bar and drink. Okay, if you're depressed and you're drinking alcohol to handle your depression, you're making yourself more depressed.
Oh. Well, anyways, I heard marijuana was a suppressant.
No, it's well, okay. There's stimulants and there's depressants. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Nicotine is a stimulant. Caffeine is a stimulant. Opium is a depressant. Okay. It basically lowers your body's response to certain chemicals. Alcohol is a depressant. It lowers your body's response to certain chemicals. So if you are depressed, because like depression, happiness, sadness, those are all chemicals that are produced in your brain, and that's what makes you feel that way. Okay? If you're taking something that affects your brain, that complements what you're trying to fight, you're just making it worse. Yeah. But if you're depressed and you drink, you're taking your body's already naturally producing hormones and chemicals that are making you feel depressed. Then you're drinking alcohol that's gonna make you. Alcohol's a depressant, so you're double depressing yourself.
Oh yeah. So can I say something? So I do take edible. Well, actually, I take the tincture, but I do take weed.
Yeah.
But I do it because
you have medical issues. You have medical issues that it helps you with, but that's different.
Yes.
because
right.
it's basically you have a medical issue that this has been prescribed to you by people who've done lab work and scientific studies on it, and they said, hey, this is going to help depress a part of your brain that would normally make you do certain things. That's different than if you just go and take the shit yourself and someone can give you a prescription for it. Look, if something is medically prescribed, even if it's, like people who get addicted to opioids or something like that, typically speaking, the doctor, by and large, a medical professional isn't doing it because they want to hurt you. They're doing it because they genuinely think it's going to help you. If you're doing it yourself, you didn't spend 6-7 years in school to learn this shit to become a doctor. So I'm, yeah, like if I have a clogged artery in my heart, I'm not gonna try and do that surgery myself. I'm gonna go to a doctor who spent 8-9 years learning that shit. Because listen. That's why you get specialists, because you don't know how to do it. So you get someone who does. It's like, I'm not a plumber. I didn't spend 2-3 years in an apprenticeship learning how to plumbing. You get someone who knows how to do that shit to do it. But yeah, the implosion of
RTU, Revtech USA.
Yeah, I heard, because I was listening to Pat the NES Punk on his podcast. He's like, hey, that implosion. I'm like, well, since when did that shit happen? I mean, I'm just getting over the fact that Boogie imploded. I'm like, I just got over it. I was like, oh, that's so sad, because he had his surgery and he got his teeth fixed. I'm like, you know what? That's good, man. Because if you saw Boogie before he had his surgery and got his teeth fixed, it was not good.
Yeah.
It was that man looked sick.
Yeah.
Like he looked like I'm afraid this. He's like, I'm married. I'm like, well, never. I'll say it after the cast, okay? But anyway, I guess we got a whole bunch of shit we got to say after the cast, so we'll wrap this up with unpopular opinions and then give our sign offs and pimp out what we want to pimp out and then wrap things up. So I guess I'll go first with my unpopular opinion. Here's my unpopular opinion. Tomorrow is Halloween. And some people are going to be acting a little bit funky. I personally am going to dress up in my Halloween outfit after I do trick-or-treating. Well, basically, I'm just going to be handing out candy to little kids until 8 o'clock. And then I'm going to get a nap, wake up, and go to a Halloween party from like 11:30 to 2-3 in the morning. And Mr. Red Fox is going to try and hook up. Yeah, I'm gonna try and make sure my pipes are clean. I'm gonna try and get my pipes clean.
Right.
What?
Yeah, gonna game the system tomorrow, huh? Gonna game the system.
There ain't gonna be no gaming. Ain't gonna be no gaming the system. I will be playing with something, rizzing. But look, that's no gaming at all. Look, listen. If both teams win, it's a win. That's not a game. That's a celebration. So that's gonna be fun. No, but in reality, my real unpopular opinion is this. Next month, November 14th, a remake of one of my favorite games of all time is coming out. Dragon Quest 3. It's been 2D HD. It's been HD 2D'd, and I'm happy. I'm like 85% happy, 15% unhappy because they stripped out something that was in the Game Boy Color version of this game, which was the casino sections where you basically could get access to some really good items early on in the game by fighting your way. By playing these casino games where you'd spend money for tokens to play on this board game, fighting your way around this board game and getting items and shit and tokens that you could then spend in the prize area of the casino in order to get better shit early on in the game. That's been stripped out. So that means the definitive version of Dragon Quest III is still the Game Boy Color version because it has content that's not in the other games.
Why did they strip it out of this one?
I don't know. I'm gonna get it on PC, so hopefully someone will add that shit back in there. That's the great thing about PC. Someone will mod things into games that you like. Anyway, that's all I had to say. Any unpopular opinion anyone else wants to announce before we wrap things up?
I already said mine earlier, and that is Dragon Age Inquisition for some reason looks better than Dragon Age Vanguard.
Yeah, and Inquisition ain't great.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I just think a lot of the colors and the lighting are better in that game. Plus the art style is okay, but mostly on the technical level, I think it looks better. But that's just me.
All right, that's fair.
It's called an unpopular opinion.
Hey man, that's why it's called unpopular opinion. Kenoshi. I mean, not Kenoshi. Kirby. 2 Ks in here. It's like, it's hard. Okay.
So what I want to say is, I never really got into Dragon Quest, but I tried to play Dragon Quest 1 as my first Dragon Quest game.
That's where you messed up, man. You can't start with 1. You got to start with 2 or 3. 3 is better. So the new one coming out, if you get a chance, play that. That's going to be the one you're going to want to start with.
I think it's 3-1-2. Is it 3-1-2 or is it 3-2-1?
It's 3-1-2.
3-1-2.
Chronologically, if you want to play the first Dragon Quest trilogy, the Loto or Erdrick, I call it Loto because I played mine on the GameCube, and Loto is what they called him originally. Loto is the almost direct translation of Roto. Loto, because there's no L's in Japanese, but when they translated it, they called them Loto. So the Loto trilogy, the first game. Okay, spoiler, but fuck it, this game is almost 30. See, the first Dragon Quest came out in 87. Here, let me look this up. Wikipedia.
About 40 or so.
No, man, don't say that. Don't making me old. Shit, don't. Dragon Quest. I'm looking it up. The first Dragon Quest came out in 86. So it's 38 years old. Yes, we were look, there's a reason I like Dragon Quest. We're the same fucking age. Dragon Quest is 38 years old. Okay. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Question.
Yes.
Does Dragon Quest 3 have that kind of speech where it's like Old English, or is it?
Yeah, the first Dragon Quest had oldie English. Here's my advice to you: if you want to play old Dragon Quest and you want to play it where it's the most accessible and less bullshit attached to it, see if you're a physical hardware person, see if you can get your hands on the physical Dragon Quest 1 and 2 for the Game Boy Color, and then Dragon Quest 3 for the Game Boy Color. Those games are great ports of Dragon Quest, and they're playable. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the problem with Dragon Quest 1. Dragon Quest 1 has zoned combat, so the whole game, the name of the game of Dragon Quest 1 is grind it till you hit level 20. Because if you take your ass to places where you don't have the stats or the equipment, you will get your shit pushed in. Like, talk to everyone in the first town. They're like, hey, if you go west, you'll get fucked up. You're like, I can do... Like, if you're used to playing modern RPGs where everything's designed to... Well, if you have the right strategy, you can make it.
Dark Souls.
You go west and you'll run into a fucking spotted slime that will wreck your shit, or a Draki that will like cast magic spells and kill your ass. My point is this: the first Dragon Quest, there's a reason Dragon Quest 1 is the template for all RPGs that came after it, because basically Dragon Quest 1 is the granddaddy of JRPGs. Dragon Quest 1 was so influential that Ultima, which influenced Dragon Quest, would later iterations of Ultima would steal shit from Dragon Quest. That's how influential Dragon Quest is as RPGs.
Wait, what about Dragon Stoppers? That's an Atari RPG.
I've heard of it. I've never played it.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah. Play Dragon Quest 1 and 2 and 3 on the Game Boy Color. Because I have those games on the Game Boy Color, and they're amazing. You just got to get past the fact that they're on the Game Boy Color, and that screen is really small. But if you have one of those analog Game Boy things, you can play it. Anyway, that being said, so yeah, Dragon Quest is 38 years old. My God. I'm an old man. Actually, I'm older than Dragon Quest is, because Dragon Quest came out in May 27. I was born February 7th. Anyway. Anyway, so Dragon Quest, it's an old franchise, and it is the template for all JRPGs. Anyway, that being said, everyone said their unpopular opinion, so I guess we can pimp out everything we want to pimp out. Kenoshi, what do you want to pimp out? Your music channel and your other channel?
Music channel, Project Open Mic. Have a couple of tracks going up within the next couple of days. So keep an eye out for that, and do a podcast every once in a while. Project Console. Have a good night, everybody.
All right. This is Mr. Red Fox, owner proprietor of BS Busters. Thank you for joining us on another beautiful cast. We will have another cast next week's Wednesday, where we'll be talking about video game concepts, stuff like that. Depending on what happens the day before, I don't know what the fuck I'll talk about as well. That being said, that's the end of the cast. Rate, comment, share, subscribe. We have a podcast every Wednesday, almost, 7:30 p.m. to 8:30, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you would like to be a part of the cast, you can reach me in the links in the description. I have a official Gmail for the channel, or you can join the Discord. That being said, that's the end of the cast. Rate, comment, share, subscribe, play your games, etc., etc. Peace.